By the way, I did the power rankings. I'm sitting there going, okay, which one of you guys?
Yeah,
I know. I go, which one are they picking
now,
at? I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
Number 1, Kansas City Chiefs. No surprise there. Even if
there's the even if.
They had to block a field goal.
There's the even if.
Undefeated.
Detroit Lions at number 2. Buffalo Bills at number 3. Baltimore Ravens at 4. Steelers at 5. Eagles at 6. Vikings 7. Packers 8. Chargers 9. Commanders 10. That means no 49ers in the top 10. No Cardinals in the top 10. There's not really a lot of debate, though. I think those are the top 10 teams at this very moment. And I think our too high and too low didn't reflect that. Let me get to the bottom 5 first, and then we'll get to those. Bottom 5. Saints at 28. Titans 29, Giants 30, Jags 31, and the Raiders, who have the best win of those bottom 5, may I add.
That's the win that the Ravens. How the hell did that happen, Gardner Minshew?
This league, man.
Whoa.
You know what? I would rather have parity in the National Football League than just like one team that dominates everything.
But if you were watching late games on Sunday, you wouldn't have thought there was any parity.
Yeah.
All right. Too high.
Team rank too high. If we could pull up the top 10 or the top, whatever, I would like to see where the Steelers are on
number 5.
Too high. Number 5, Pittsburgh Steelers. We talk about the interim coach bump. Well, how about the quarterback change bump that you get as the Pittsburgh Steelers? Obviously, Mike Tomlin making a coach of the year type decision, bringing Russell Wilson into the fold. Yeah, George Pickens has been awesome. Mike Williams found the red line for his quarterback. The defense is the defense, but I just don't know if they can sustain this. I really don't. And you know what? They've got a big matchup coming this week. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, it could be a little bit of fool's gold there. I like the team. They're tough. They have a great head coach. They play tough on defense. They've got a quarterback now that's not going to make a lot of mistakes and can be explosive. How many weeks in a row are we going to see the Steelers team go out there and do the unthinkable?
I'm probably more in your camp but I think they've earned the right to be in that spot. Look, Russell Wilson, he completed 50% of his passes. The throw to George Pickens in the end zone was behind him. Pickens made a great play. Otherwise, that's a bad pass. And what the hell was Washington doing leaving that guy in man-to-man coverage? That's all he does is throw those move balls. I didn't understand that. You weren't trying to take him at it.
Spot away from another little Hail Mary situation.
You weren't.
And you knew Jaden Daniels was going to get it done.
But you weren't trying to take him out of field goal range by blitzing him. They blitzed him on that play. You don't do that. It was bad defense by the Commanders, and they paid for it with one of his moon balls down the sideline. So I probably tend to agree with you a little bit. But Mike Tomlin and that defense and that physical style, they've earned the right to be in that spot.
Mike Tomlin getting his offense back on the field, knowing that Russell's a vet, he's got a good hard count, and you could see him mouth to his team right before they left the sideline. No snap, no play. Right. I'm wondering why Dan Quinn didn't say the same thing to him.
Well, they had a rookie in there.
There will be no play. You close your eyes, you plug your ears, and you wait for somebody to pull you up.
Inexcusable.
Period.
I'm going to go a little different. I think they're too low. I think it should be above the Ravens.
Wow.
They have a better record. They've not dropped the ugly sort of games that the Ravens had. And with Russell Wilson in, they look awesome. I mean, they look like one of.
But you can't. He didn't look great the other day.
They were averaging over 30 points a game with Russell Wilson in the start against the Jets, the Giants, and the Commanders.
Yeah, okay. The Jets were down 2 secondary players, and they stink. We found that out. The Giants really stink, and they were down 2 secondary players. And the Commanders, he threw the Pickens made a great play on a terrible throw for a touchdown, and he got it one-on-one moon ball. But he completed under 50%. What do you complete? 50% of his passes.
We get to find out this weekend.
Well, the Ravens defense stinks too, though.
And they get to play the Ravens actually twice. They haven't played the Ravens yet.
The Ravens defense
so we'll
stinks.
get a nice
I hope Lamar hears your little put them above the Ravens.
Well, I mean, I just think that if here's a good thought experiment for you. If the Bengals had made a 53-yarder and converted 2-point conversion against the Ravens this year, they would have a better record than the Ravens. And they also are like one of the best offenses in the NFL. Are we talking about the Bengals, like where you were talking about the Ravens right now? Or are the Ravens just a different animal in that regard?
Could be.
Well, the Ravens defense isn't. Neither defense is. We saw that last week.
Well, that's why everyone's on the Ravens train. And I do think the Ravens are a great team. I think the defense can figure it out. I think the talent's there to do so.
Yes.
But objectively, one of the worst defenses in the NFL this year. So it's
a lot of guys have not played as well, including Roquan Smith, who hasn't been as good.
I think this is a group in Baltimore that can step up to the occasion when they do get into one of these big games. I think that they're a group that understands how talented they are on both sides of the football, and sometimes they can get a little lax maybe on the back end. But I think they will be able to circle the wagon.
When we talk about Baltimore, Matabika hasn't been as good. He flashed last week, but Matabika hasn't been as good. Roquan Smith hasn't been as good. The secondary's been a disaster across the board. Kyle Hamilton.
And now he's hurt. Not serious, but.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's been a problem for them. They got to pick it up or else they're not going to. If they play that defense, they're not beating anybody.
They're going to waste another amazing Lamar Jackson year.
He's been incredible.
His best.
All right, my team that's too high. Just because I want to pile on a little bit. Dallas Cowboys at 25. I think they're too high. I think right now, if you're starting Cooper Rush at quarterback, you are worse than the Patriots, the Panthers, the Saints.
They're not worse. They're not worse than the Panthers.
Rush at quarterback?
They're not worse than the Panthers.
I had to watch Cowboys Panthers this weekend.
He had one of the worst quarterback performances of all time.
It was bad, but that's a good team they play too.
It is.
But they got Jonathan Mingo, dude.
But I do think Dak cured a lot of ills. Dak is still, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. 10 to 12, however you want to.
But you can look at that game and say, if Elliott doesn't fumble going into the end zone and it's a ball game, why did they put him in the game in the first place, by the way?
Because they got no other good running backs. But I do just think the Cowboys right now, they stink. They are terrible, and they're not only just losing games, they're getting blown out of games. It's not even like they're hanging tough with anyone. And I think the locker room is such
they're bad. That's a bad football team.
That they're just not going to show
up.
But
they're not worse than the Panthers.
All right, who's too low?
Too low. And I'll probably get some hell for this. But it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, dude. Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield, who's playing out of his mind.
So they're at 19.
They're at 19. I think there are a few teams ahead of them that they could beat. I think they could beat the Rams. I think they could beat the Seahawks. I think they would beat the Broncos head-to-head as it currently stands, even with all their injuries.
The Broncos beat them.
Right now. I like the Buccaneers. They're hot. Baker Mayfield's unbelievable. And even though they're losing game after game after game, I feel like this is the team that could beat anybody on any given week.
I picked them to win the division, so they're down.
I'm starting to see what you were talking about.
Yeah. I love watching him play. I mean, he plays with everything he has. I do like that, but I think the injuries have decimated them. And as far as the Broncos, they went there at their place and beat them, and they were healthier.
It's a moral victory for the Bucs right now because I just feel like all their stars are out. And they have to find a way to be competitive, and they are every single week.
The Saints did them a favor last week by beating the Falcons.
Kansas City down to the wire. I mean, I don't know. There's so much parity in the league, and I think this Bucs team is a team that could swing up week in week.
Look, could you make a case for them to be a little higher? Absolutely.
Great.
If they were healthy, they would be higher.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about them a little later because they're my team that's ranked actually just right. But I'm going to say the Texans right now are too low. I think that team that – they lost to the Lions, but it took a terrible second half for them to do so. They hung tough. They're 6-4, but if you look at them compared to the other 6-4 teams, I think they're better than the Falcons, better than the Cardinals. And I think once Nico Collins is back, which he should be this week, it's just a much different offense. It's hard to understate how big of an impact it was losing him. You just see a completely different team with and without him. So I think now that he's back, they are. I'm not going to put him in the top 10 just because of how ugly that offensive line has looked at times, how the play calling offensively, I think, has been an issue. But they're right outside that top. I think I'd put them at 11 right now instead of 14 where they're at.
I mean, okay, if Collins is back, they're playing well, but they're on a skid, and they lost to the Jets 10 days ago. The Jets are awful. They lost to the Jets.
But they're losing because they can't score points.
Yeah,
they're losing because they
had the wrong combination of guys up front. They changed some stuff around this past week. CJ Stroud looked to be a lot more comfortable,
and they're still
Juice Scruggs didn't look great at left guard,
and they're waiting for the guy Nico to come out and just dominate everybody.
Look, he looked good in the first half. He didn't look good in the second half. No. CJ Stroud.
He had a terrible. Usually, I've been saying that. Other things outside of CJ have let him down. He let the team down.
He was bad the second half.
All right, who's ranked just right?
So with our Goldilocks segment brought to you by Travis Matthew, we do the just right team. And for me, it's the Los Angeles Chargers in the top 10. They're not going to win the division, but this is a team that can go and beat any team in the National Football League on the right day. I feel like when you look at the blueprint for this team, like we were talking about the Steelers, they've got a great defense. They've got a quarterback who's, they got a better quarterback than the Steelers do.
Much.
They have Jim Harbaugh, which I think is points. That equals points for your football team, whether it be from a motivational standpoint, just charisma. Guy's got riz. He's got aura. There's not many coaches like that. Tomlin's a guy like that. Andy Reid's a guy like that. They have that with the Chargers, and their ability to run the football combined with Justin Herbert's arm talent, I feel like makes this team a real dangerous group. Having them at number 9, I believe it is a good spot for them. I think they're just right.
I love that team. I love watching that team. They're physical. They're tough. They get after it on defense. Quentin Johnson emerging as a receiver, receiving threat. Yeah, it's a big deal for him. That's progress. and they can, and McConkey, I mean, they have weapons now, and they allow him to throw it too, which was a concern of mine. I love watching that team. Their game with the Bengals this week is going to be fun because you have that explosive offense against that good defense, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I think that's the biggest thing from early on the season. And is McConkey emerging as a guy that he trusts, that Herbert trusts, and Quinn Johnson just like actually making the plays. It was always kind of, everyone's known he's gifted. He was a project sort of high-end physical talent coming out of TCU. It's just, can he actually catch the football? And so now he actually is. So that's a good thing. I agree. The Chargers are definitely
physical on that offensive line.
Secret weapon for that team. And I've probably said it in this room before a number of times, but when you watch their post-game celebration in the locker room, it's Jim Harbaugh. Everybody high five each other. Did you see that? That was awesome. By the way,
it was cheesy.
High five. Yeah, but that's the Jim Harbaugh thing.
Yeah, he's cheesy.
Was there a single guy in there not high fiving?
No.
Every single guy was high fiving. And you know who the biggest smile in the room was standing behind Jim Harbaugh? A little nerdy guy in the back, Mark Trestman.
Yeah.
Mark Trestman, my old head coach, offensive coordinator, really bright guy. You can see some of that stuff come to fruition on offense. Mark Trestman was a big hire.
And you can see his influence on the offense because if it was just Greg Roman, it wouldn't have the same look to it.
Yeah.
It would be so different. So you can definitely see Trestman's influence on that offense.
My team that's just right is the team you actually said was too low. I think the Bucs are just right. I think at 19, that's where they are right now. And it's because, unfortunately, you don't have your 2 best wide receivers. Shoot, your 3 best wide receivers with Jalen McMillan.
McMillan was active, but then didn't do anything. He didn't play.
So Baker Mayfield, I mean, you've seen it. He's averaging 5.9 yards per attempt the last 3 weeks. They just can't, you can cobble together some offense.
He's averaging like 1 second to throw.
But the explosive plays are just gone. Now Tristan Wirfs gets hurt, MCL sprain, not out for the year. But if he's out, it's over for them. I think 19 might even be, if anything, I'm arguing they're too high, but I think just right at 19, just because I do think that Liam Cohen, this running game, can still get going, but sick forking them. It's over.
It's a shame that they had the injuries when they had them.
Yes.
And remember early in the season, Vita Vea missed time. Cansey was out. Now they're back, and so your defense the other guys on the wide receivers are out. Now you lose your left tackle, and the secondary's been banged up in and out of the lineup. So
these are the most important positions on a football.
Of course,
team. You talk about the defensive front. You talk about the left tackle position. You talk about your Hall of Fame receiver. You talk about your Pro Bowl receiver. These guys go down. You got to scramble as a football team, which is why I'm probably giving the Bucs more credit than they deserve. But man, they're a tough football team, and they look like they have fun.
That's Baker. That's Baker. He makes them tough. He makes them competitive. And look, they're going to be in games. It's a matter of if they can win them.